Welcome back to the dotCMS Content Contributor course. Next, let's talk about content and content management. How do we begin authoring content and managing and searching through the content that exists on our dotCMS instance? Well, first, it's important to understand content and how it works in dotCMS. Content can be contributed in different ways, but it all winds up in a content repository. We can find our content here on the left in the Content Tools group, and we'll see a number of tools here of specific content types. This allows us to quickly and easily access content of these various types straight from the navigation. However, the navigation you see and the content types available to you would depend upon what kind of content you should be working on and the permissions that are applied to your user account. So you may not see what I see or even what your colleagues see. However, if we wanted to look through all of the content on the site, we could search. At the bottom of the Content Tools group, we'll see a search tool. We click this to open Content Search. Here, we can search through everything on our sites. Of course, we can only see what we have permissions to see. So, again, much like with our tools, what I see may be different from what my colleague sees. Now, it's important to understand how the content works here. Like I said, content is stored in the same place, and it can all be found and used repeatedly and shared throughout one or even multiple sites across many different pages. This is why the content exists here in the content repository on its own. I can go ahead and search through this to locate any of the content I wish and modify it there, and then reuse that same content on multiple different websites or pages. For example, if I wanted to search for Costa Rica, I could go ahead and begin typing in the box at the top. It says type to search. If I click in this box and type Costa, I'll see a number of results returned based on the text I've entered. It's important to note, though, that it's not purely based on the title of the content. You'll notice that we see a lot of content here with Costa in the title. So we see Costa Rica rainforest, but we'll even see things where Costa Rica is not at the beginning of the title, so this is included anywhere in the title. We can see here with surfingcostarica.jpg that the title does not begin with Costa, so it's actually searching for anywhere within that title. And not only within the title, but actually anywhere within the content. Now, for one, not all of this content exists on the front end. We can see the type of content here in the type column. We have some banners, we have a photo gallery, a destination, an image. But if I scroll down, we'll actually see some things that are only accessible to the back end, or even things like blog comments that were left by users. However, it's important to note that it's not only searching the title of the content. For instance, if I search for something like ocean, we see here we have an ocean enthusiast, and this is a persona, which, while yes, does interact with the front end, is really only accessible via the back end to modify and edit. Here we can see a rod and reel that has ocean within the title, but we'll notice some other things here like French Polynesia or Summer is Here that do not have ocean in the title at all. Looking at French Polynesia, if I click on it, we'll find that it says ocean elsewhere in the content. In this case, it's actually in the experience type, which is a part of our persona setup that we've created here on our demo site. It's not contained within the short description, so we know it's really only getting it from the Ocean Adventures experience type. So that's one way that we might find content purely by searching. If I click the X to leave this content and check out instead the Summer is Here banner, here I'll find that the ocean is actually in the caption. So keep that in mind when we're searching for content. We don't just have to search for the title. We can utilize the content search tool to find anything we might be looking for and anything that's relevant. Great, so this is how we search for and locate content, but we can also create new content. How do we do so? Well, let's say that I wanted to create a new blog. I could simply go to my blogs here under the Content Tools group. And now if I click the blue plus sign in the top right corner, it allows me to add new content. When I click this button, it immediately begins creating an entirely new blog. Now this is because we are in the blog tool. So when I'm creating new content there, it assumes I want to create a new blog. However, this is not the only way to create new content. If I click the X and close this, if I go back to the content search and click the blue plus sign in the top corner and click add new content, it will actually ask me what type of content I want to create. Now, currently I'm logged in as an administrator, so I can see essentially all of the content types. However, again, what you see here is entirely dependent on the permissions assigned to your user account. So I could choose whatever I wanted to create here, as far as my content is considered. Let's go ahead and choose a rich text. Creating rich text content is pretty straightforward. We get a simple WYSIWYG here that allows us to input whatever text we'd like. However, it's important to make sure that we're paying attention to all of the fields that are required. Required fields are any fields that have a red asterisk next to the title of that field. So in this case, we see the site. This content requires a site selection, and I can choose from the dropdown any of my sites. It requires a title. So let's give this a title. And it requires a body. So here we would need to input some sort of text or even some other things like images, as we can see here in the WYSIWYG, to our body. Now, I already have an article pulled up where I can grab some information from about sloths. Of course, I would never recommend plagiarism, but this is just for an example. I'll copy and paste this in here, and now I have some nice information about sloths. But this is rich text, so we can insert things beyond just text. Let's go ahead and insert an image. Now, remember, when we're talking about content on dotCMS, content exists in the repository and allows us to pull from it and use it over and over. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and say click right after this paragraph, and then click the Insert Image button in my WYSIWYG toolbar, and choose an image from somewhere within my site. We can navigate through the folders and look for exactly what we wanted to add. You'll notice we could also upload a new file, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later on. But I could click on, say, this sloth image, and now it has been inserted into my rich text. I can actually edit this though. If I click on that sloth image, you'll notice I have some anchors here to resize it if I wish. And you can see the actual resolution of the image as you resize it. What if I wanted this to look a little bit better? I'll go ahead and actually justify my image to the right. There we go. This looks pretty nice. My image is sitting alongside the text, and it, of course, illustrates the information we're talking about. You may have noticed, though, that when I click on the image, I have some other options here. I can edit the image or view the image properties. If I choose properties, I could see things like the source of the image description, and the image dimensions. And we can choose to constrain the proportions of that image so that we don't warp the image. We can also choose to caption the image by checking the box. And we'll see an advanced tab. In this, we can provide some style, and we could add in things like some padding for vertical and horizontal space, and a border with border width and style. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of padding, like say 20 pixels or so, and we'll see that our style is automatically updated. I can also add a border. Let's add a border width of say 3 pixels and use a style of a ridge. Then we'll click OK. And now we can see we have a nice border and a little bit of padding to ensure that our content is not clashing with the text. This looks pretty good. So now we can go ahead and choose to save, to come back to this content later, or publish it right away if we have the ability to do so. Of course, as a content contributor, you might not be able to publish content yourself. You may be saving that content for someone else to publish, or push publishing it to a queue. So I'll go ahead and publish this myself. And now we have the content published and saved and available for us to use. I can go ahead and close this. You'll see my sloth facts rich text does appear here since it has just recently been added, and we are currently looking at all of our content in the search. And of course, I could filter down to only certain types of content and look at rich text. There's our sloth facts. And this we could go ahead and insert on any of the pages that we wish. For instance, I could go ahead and locate a page that I wish to add that to by going to my site browser, going to pages, and choosing a page I'd like to add this to, like say Costa Rica rainforest. As soon as we click on Costa Rica rainforest, we're taken to a preview. However, if I wanted to edit this, I could click the edit view. And now we can see the containers that exist on the page that allow me to add the content to, just as we discussed before. Now I can go ahead and add that content to any one of these containers if I wish. Let's go ahead and add it to this container here. I can, of course, find it on the right-hand side or click the blue plus sign. I can choose content, and this brings up our content search. Again, our sloth facts is right on the top because it's our most recent piece of content. I can click select, and it'll throw it right into the box. Now, it's added it below the other content, but again, I could just click and drag that above if I wanted to. And now our sloth facts are right here on the top. Again, it's important to remember how content works within dotCMS. We can have different pieces of content within our repository that we reference and use in many different places. If I remove the content from this page, it doesn't delete the content from my dotCMS instance. It simply removes it from this page. This is essentially just a reference to that content. So I can click the X to remove it, click accept, and now it has been removed from the page. But again, if we go right back to our content, go to rich text, here we'll find sloth facts is still here, still published, and we can reuse it at any time.